Won't you lend your lungs to me? Mine are collapsing. Plant my feet and bitterly breathe up the time that's passed. Breath I'll take and breath I'll give. Pray the day's not poised. Stand among the ones that live in lonely indecision.
Hello, welcome to the Crackpot Podcast. This is episode 35, special episode. We're going to talk about boxing with our guest, John Paul Barber. Welcome, John Paul Barber.
Hey, Lynn. Hey, James. Thanks for the invite.
Hey, John Paul.
It's an honor to be on my favorite podcast here.
It's very kind of you.
John Paul, you look like my older cousin Fred, who tried to drown me when I was 11 years old.
Oh, man. Well, I'm glad we're not doing this interview in person then. Like my daddy says, he might be old, but you still probably kick my ass.
Oh, you look pretty big there. Might have a Homer Simpson helmet inside of that head.
It's table muscle mostly. I can't see you, though. How can you see me?
At first, when I got on here, neither one of you could hear me or see me.
Yes.
And I could hear you and see you. And I've been able to get to the point where this is where it's at. My video thing is showing grayed out and disabled. I don't know how what most of the stuff on this keyboard does. So, if I tried to fix it, it would probably eat up all of our time.
Yeah. We don't need to do tech support today. Or any day, if possible.
I watched the fight that John Paul suggested. Big Ron and I did our weight routine in the basement, and then I pulled up the Luke Rockhold and Cuban motorcycle helmet with thick legs. I forget his name.
Romero.
Fighting in the UFC. And we enjoyed that, and then we went on and watched some videos of current top Cuban fighters and my favorite Cuban fighter, Kid Gavilan. We watched him and Carmen Bastillo, and I'd already seen him fight Ray Robinson, and we watched his highlight reel. And I saw a lot of similarities in his style and the style of our current Cuban boxers, like 70 years later.
Well, this is for Paul Bingham, and he is the one that wanted to know your thoughts on Cuban fighters. And he also contacted me again just a little while ago, had some kind of psychic connection, but unfortunately it was not strong enough. So he will have more questions. So I'm sure we'll do another boxing episode because I think it's obviously an important topic. So what else can you tell us? Mark, did you get a chance to look at that Rockhold and Romero?
Yeah, well, I saw it when it first happened back in February, I believe, and then I went ahead and watched it again whenever you sent the link. Romero, he's very explosive, impressive physical specimen. He's a Cuban Olympic weightlifter. Not weightlifter, wrestler. And he ended up defecting, I think, in 2007 in Germany at some of the world games or whatever, which is what most of you Cuban athletes do that want to turn professional. Probably one difference with the Cuban MMA fighters versus Cuban boxers is, they're going to have a wrestling background. And it's pretty impressive of Romero how good he is in the stand-up. Most of the fights I've seen in him, he doesn't go to the ground a whole lot considering he's got a wrestling background. He's got some big power in his hands. I mean, when he put he's southpaw, so when he finished that fight with Rockhold, he hit him with two jabs, a powerful left hook that probably is what put Rockhold out. And then Rockhold kind of crumples against the cage. Romero reaches down, grabs the top of Rockhold's head, and just throws this huge uppercut. And I mean, it's really putting salt on the wound. I mean, he just, oh man, it was rough. I mean, he put a hurting on him. But and now since then, Romero has fought for the middleweight title against Robert Whittaker, he's from New Zealand, but I believe he looks like some kind of mulatto. I don't know. He's probably part Maori Indian or something, maybe, or whatever them people are called down there. Romero lost to him. Whittaker won by decision, so he's not. Doesn't look like he's going to be the middleweight champ anytime soon.
Rockhold fighting him, it's as if he forgot that he was fighting another southpaw. He kept moving right behind his jab And it was Ron and I both figured by the end of the first round that he was going to eat a huge left hand. And he did, because he also didn't. A lot of kickboxers don't throw a cleanup punch with their lead hand because they're used to angling for a follow-up kick. So if they don't have the follow-up kick, they'll just kind of stall out. I think whoever was in Romero's corner, based on his patience, probably just told him it was going to happen. Just wait for it, and it did. Well, Rockhold should move left while he was jabbing. He should have done some fencing or stick fighting to prepare for that. So, but it's as if Rockhold's corner didn't even know they were fighting a southpaw. It was interesting. One of the Cuban fighters that we were watching, I can't remember his name, but they all had this great continuity between their elbows and their hips, and their elbows would never drift very far. And I noticed Ortiz fought your boy and lost, Deontay Wilder.
Yeah.
He's got a vicious uppercut. And I didn't see the fight. Did he get to use that on Wilder or no? Did Wilder just shut him?
I watched it, but it was one of them that was on late at night, and I was dozing in and out. And it seems like I was having trouble with my stream that night, too. I was watching it on some bootleg stream or whatever. And I just remember Wilder finally finishing him. And Wilder's one of them. I hate to give credit to this guy because I really hate him. But he's from Baltimore, Gervonta Davis. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Okay. He tweeted during that fight, and it's a very accurate quote. He said Deontay Wilder fights like a tom girl, and just he had his style is just all over the place. It does kind of look like a girl fight the way he's swinging, but he hits so hard. I mean, he punches through people's guard and knocks them out. I mean, it's pretty impressive, and that raw power like that. It's hard to stop. I'm looking forward. I hope they can get the deal worked out between him and Anthony Joshua.
Yeah, a friend of mine called me and was excited about that. We plan on watching the fight together with Ron.
Yeah. It should be a good one. Big crowd. We'll be showing up for that one over in the UK. That's
one thing I wanted to ask you, John Paul, because I know you watch boxing probably more than James does in terms of the current state of the sport, and a lot of more boxing takes place overseas than takes place in the U.S. Is that correct?
Well, I don't know about more, but the biggest, the last 5 largest live gates have been outside the United States. Just a few weeks ago, you had Anthony Joshua and Joseph Parker fought in Cardiff, Wales, in front of 8,000, something like that, 78,000 people. Before that, Anthony Joshua's last 2 fights were at Wembley Stadium. One of them was with Vladimir Klitschko, and one of them was some just African journeyman I'd never even heard of, and had 90-some thousand people in the stands at Wembley Stadium in England. And Sergio Martinez fought in Argentina in whatever their big soccer stadium is there. I can't remember if it was Matthew Macklin or Martin Murray. And it was pouring down rain. I mean, a monsoon, and those fans were out there. It was like 70-some thousand people there for that fight too. I mean, just, huge live gates outside the U.S., but everything still wants to revolve around Vegas, I guess, because it's gambling capital of the world or whatever. But in America, boxing's still popular with some big names or whatever, and of course it's popular among Mexicans, but it's still a mainstream sport over in the UK. I mean, it's still a big deal. I mean, they're putting 90,000 butts in the seats for a heavyweight boxing match. I mean, that's pretty impressive. We don't come anywhere close to that here in the States. But I do watch a lot of British boxing just because even the small shows, I mean, they're having them in these clubs, and the atmosphere, it's a lot like, the soccer teams where all the local fans show up and they're chanting just like they do during the soccer matches or whatever. A lot of you might remember that in some of Ricky Hatton's fights. He fought Floyd Mayweather in Vegas, and he had more fans in the stands than Floyd did, and he lives in Vegas. Part of that's because Floyd's an asshole, but but people love Ricky, and follow him all over the world, and you hear him chanting and playing. He's got a band they're playing, and same thing over in the UK. You got all these club fighters or whatever over there, and the fans are just really into it. And those guys fight. I mean, it's about the only place you can really watch white guys fight too, to be honest.
As a cultural event, boxing doesn't rate in the United States anymore, and maybe the key word is culture. It's as if we just have this lowest common denominator culture. So in these other countries where they still care about rooting for the hometown guy, it makes sense that we'd start going back there. We haven't had gates approaching 100,000 in the U.S., I think, since the 20s and 30s.
I think Rocky Marciano fought in front of a pretty big crowd in Yankee Stadium, but that'd have been in the 50s, I guess, wouldn't it? It probably wasn't 100,000, but it was pretty close, I think. Yeah,
I think our biggest live gate was still Dempsey Carpintero back in the 1920s.
Okay.
Which was over 100,000 people. But you would think with our population, we'd be able to do better than these other places. But no. But I guess the U.S. probably accounts for a lot of pay-per-view buys.
That's true. We got plenty of money to burn over here.
But seriously, I don't. As far as regular broadcast boxing matches, if it wasn't for Mexican beer companies, you wouldn't even have them. Seriously, you wouldn't. All you would have is pay-per-view boxing in the U.S. And
their logos are all over the apron.
Right. They have a whole squad of Corona girls. We would just be watching fights from Britain and Australia and New Zealand.
That's true. That's one thing. But I have some Mexicans come in a barbershop, and they're about the only people that I talk to about boxing on a regular basis. But all they know is the Mexican fighters. They don't care anything about any of the rest of the sport. They just care about the Mexican fighters.
Well, that's fascinating, and that makes them really great fans for the opponent. So Mayweather basically made most of his money off of Mexicans wanting to see him get beat up.
That's right, the Mexicutioner. Wasn't that what his uncle? That was his nickname, wasn't it? Wasn't that Roger's nickname, the Mexicutioner? Or he used to come out with a sombrero onto his fights and stuff. I remember.
I think his nickname was the Black Mamba.
Yeah, I believe you're right about that.
Yeah. I see Lynn cringing. There's a lot of tasteless monikers in boxing, Lynn. And,
James, did you ever have a nickname for when you were boxing?
No.
You didn't?
No. I was the guy that was.
Okay. Well, look, I've got a great nickname that I'm going to give you permission for any of the guys you train. If they want to have it, it's fine. Whoever you think's the best, whoever you want to give it to. For a white fighter, the Caucasian Invasion.
Oh, I like that. I'll make sure I make that available. I did have a fight name that was given to me by Mexicans when we used to have this stick fighting and knife fighting club in the park, and we would go out there and beat each other with sticks and stab each other with these dull knives. And the Mexican landscapers would stop their job and they would watch us. And they mostly liked the other guy that I usually fought, Chuck. He was a hairy guy that would wear a wife beater even in the winter, even in the snow when we're out there sparring. It was his back hair was sprouting out of his sleeveless shirt. And they called him Loco Lobo. And they always hissed at me when I won, and they christened me Diablo Mano, which I think is devil hand.
Devil monkey.
I wasn't going to mention this, but when I watched that Rockhold Romero fight, I clicked over. There was like a suggested video of a clip of Romero with Joe Rogan and some other guy who was translating, and it was really funny. It's for me as a Spanish speaker, it was really good. So it just made me think of that, wondering what those Mexicans were really saying when they were watching you guys fight.
That's all they called me was Diablo Mano.
When I was in prison, the Mexicans called me Teniente Koyak, which is Lieutenant Kojak, because I didn't have any hair, and I guess that's the only bald white person they knew growing up watching TV or whatever.
Did they have any boxing or fitness programs in prison where you were?
No, I don't think. I think they've pretty much discouraged that everywhere. I think what's the big prison down in Louisiana where all the hardcore criminals are? I can't remember the name of it, but I seemed like I saw a documentary not too long ago. They still have it down there, but I think they tried to discourage fighting as much as they can in there. There's enough of it happens without.
So we won't have any more Johnny Trejos coming out of
no,
boxing programs and becoming bad guys in action movies. That's too bad.
Probably not.
I wanted to ask you guys, because we talked to James, people know you were a boxer and you gave it up for the stick fighting, I guess. You rather have weapons, but...
I lost my last boxing match in 2002. I'd already been stick fighting for a few years. So
okay.
I planned some more boxing matches since then, but they all fell through, usually because I got hurt so bad that it wasn't going to be a notable loss on my part. You know, I wanted to at least lurch around for a while and put up a fight before I went down. So.
Well, what about you, John Paul? Do you have any boxing experience?
Nothing formal. I mean, I always lived in the sticks. We don't have boxing gyms or things like that around here. Just growing up, as you know, when me and my buddies, you know, lived on the road in my neighborhood road where I grew up on. When we weren't playing Smear the Queer, we were, you know, we'd lace up some boxing gloves and beat the hell out of each other. But no, most of my experience has been street fights, I guess. Yeah, we don't. I'd loved it. It'd been nice to have had boxing gyms or whatever around here. I'd kind of like to get into it now, but doing what I do for a living, I'm a barber. I'm scared to death I'll break my hands and my family will starve. So probably not a good idea.
That's a good point. I knocked the thumbnail off of an orthopedic surgeon an hour before he had surgery one time. But thankfully, he has inhuman pain tolerance.
Yeah.
You know, so it does. The guy, you could be like, you know, scalping him, and he could continue on his activities. So.
Yeah.
Now, I would like you to describe something in case we have any millennial listeners here. Hopefully, it's not just old guys like us. Could you please describe at least the Appalachian version of Smear the Queer? See if it's the same Smear the Queer I used to play when I was.
Okay, well, basically, you know, I didn't realize it was such a big thing till the last Olympics, and I think the rest of the world calls it rugby. But you basically just run around with a ball, and you know everybody's chasing you, and if you've got the ball, you're fair game to just tackle the shit out of them or whatever. And so you try to throw the ball away to somebody else. If it comes to you, you're supposed to catch it. You can't drop it, you know. So whoever's got the ball is the queer, and everybody else are the ones doing the smearing.
Yeah, that's great. That's the same game.
Okay.
We used to play it in Washington, Pennsylvania, and the touch they had is whenever they would, if you're a new kid in the neighborhood, the ball's automatically being thrown to you. And I just caught the ball. I didn't even know what we were playing. And then the guy that threw the ball just screamed, "Smear the Queer." And everybody's coming after me. So I quickly
learned real quick.
It's like tag, but worse.
Yeah, it's
tag,
it's really
tag for non-pussies.
Right. It's a fantastic sport. Hey, I played a game of tag with that same group of guys one time, and the guy that owned the local pizza shop had a younger brother who had really bad Down syndrome, and he was Italian. He couldn't speak any English. And he played soccer with his older brother. And we used to play a game of tag called All Caught. So the first guy to get caught in this round, next round, he's it. And every time he tags somebody, that person's it also. And eventually you have 5 or 6 guys chasing one guy. So it's my favorite. It was my favorite type of tag.
Yeah.
And what this one kid, Jeff Locatardo, did is he immediately just went and tagged the retarded kid. And which was a real shitty thing to do because the guy was super slow. But then we found out that he was incapable of fatigue. So what he did the next round, when he knew he was it, he just pointed at Jeff. And he started jogging towards him. And Jeff ran away from him and made fun of him like Bugs Bunny making fun of a turtle or something. And after a couple times they ran around this same yard we played in, we all went to the porch and watched. And this went on for hours with this kid, the retarded kid, jogging after Jeff until it got to the point where it was like a horror story where Jeff was actually crawling across the lawn because he was so tired trying to get away from him. It was the best game of tag I ever saw. You know, it went till dark. And then finally the retarded Italian kid mercifully tagged him.
Never run out of energy.
Yeah, so we just walked up to the kid and let him tag us all out because we weren't going to go through that. It would have taken off, till the next dawn. So.
He would have been a good for back in the old days of boxing where you just started round 1 and kept going until somebody quit or got knocked out.
Oh, he was immensely strong.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had him lifting weights with us one time, and it was scary. You know, he had that kind of strength that people call retard strength, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah. I follow this Twitter account called Boxing History. They put a thing up there the other day when Jess Willard, when he beat Jack Johnson, it was 26th or 27th round that he finally beat Jack Johnson. I mean, that's just hard to imagine going that long, you know?
It's amazing, and those were timed glove rounds. A lot of the bare knuckle rounds were short.
Yeah.
But you had the longest boxing matches were in the early gloved era when they were unlimited rounds. Johnson was around 40 years old when that fight went off.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, that was a long time to go for him. Now, have you heard or followed any of the developments in bare knuckle boxing? Some guys are trying to bring this back, like Bobby Hunt.
I've seen a few videos of them, you know, doing those or whatever. I mean, I don't really know what to think about. I doubt it'll ever get to where it's on regular television or anything like that, just because, I mean, hell, look how long it took for them to legalize MMA in America. I mean, I don't know, just.
It seems to be more like a counterculture masculinity thing, actually.
Yeah.
And it's something that guys that are no longer going to be able to win titles, you know, like Bobby Gunn was, he was a top 10 boxer that lost Roy Jones. And for glove boxing, he's washed up. But as a bare knuckle boxing, where you're more careful, he's really devastating.
Oh, yeah. Well, and then, you know, today, you know, these TV deals and stuff are not as important as they used to be, you know, with the internet and well, YouTube would probably ban something like that, but, you know, there's still plenty of ways to get those videos out there for people to watch.
I've seen a few of them on YouTube, and I was watching it with 3 guys I coach at the bar, and Eric decided that before he's 40, he wants to do a bare knuckle match. So I'm training him for that now. He's got to lose weight, and if I can't find somebody to match up with him, I'll get carried off on my shield. I'll fight him. So, you know, I'll do everything I can to avoid getting hit in the nose.
You're going to bring back the Masters division.
Right, you know, so, yeah, his arm's twice as thick as mine, so if we don't get a broken arm.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to do one of them prize ring rules where he'll be allowed to throw me if we get in a clinch.
Oh, yeah.
So I wouldn't be able to rest in a clinch.
Yeah.
With him. So, you know, other than that, the LPR rules, you can hold and hit and you can throw the guy down.
Yeah.
And other than that, the rules are pretty much the same, but you got to limit your punch selection so you don't ruin your hands.
Yeah.
And this guy's like a rock, so I'm going to be very careful before I lay in a punch on him, or else I just, you know, I'll break something up.
Yeah.
Now, what was your most interesting experience when you were in the joint in prison? I mean, just a funny story, something that you thought was
like talking about a fight or just anything can happen.
Yeah, I mean, something that was just fun, you know, that would be interesting to people, maybe illustrative of how it's different there than in the outside world.
One of the things that I did notice, there's a lot of talented people in there, just have all kind of skills as far as art, music, woodworking. I mean, it kind of blew my mind. The thing that, you know, most people know is things kind of get divided up between races or whatever. You just kind of stick with your own in there. It's just kind of a smart thing to do.
You had American Indians.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, you say something about the Cherokees and the Lumbees.
The regular Indians, or the real Indians, whatever you want to call it, they had I don't know if you know anything about prison. All these people find religion when they get in there. And so, of course, they have to, the prison recognizes all the different religions. And the Cherokees, they had like a sweat lodge ceremony that they'd do every few months or whatever. I don't know how often they did it, you know. And the Lumbees wanted to take part in that, but they didn't recognize them, the Cherokees, they didn't recognize them as a real tribe. So there was a big schism between that, and there's way more Lumbees in prison than they are real Indians. So I don't remember any physical confrontation coming about it, them not wanting to let them in the sweat lodge or whatever, but it was a big deal. And like the Lumbees, they kind of had their separate thing that they did or whatever. I don't know. I didn't really, I mean, I knew it was going on, but I didn't really keep up with it that much.
I thought that was interesting because I've known a few Lumbee Indians in Baltimore, and they have a reputation for stabbing people.
Yeah, they definitely do. That's go to Robinson County, Lumberton, North Carolina. That's a great place to get stabbed. I got a funny story for you, James. It just happened to me the other day. All right, I got out of work. I walked up to the parking lot where I parked my truck, and I'm sitting there. I'm fiddling with my phone. I got about 20 minutes left of the latest Crackpot podcast I'm going to listen to on my way home. So I'm sitting there, and I see 2 or 3 cop cars flying up the streets, and I don't really think nothing about it. I mean, it don't happen real often where I live, but sometimes you see it, no big deal. All right, as I'm sitting there hooking my phone up in my truck, I look, and I see this guy, looks like a Mexican, coming. He's behind this eye doctor's office, and he's got up on top of this fence, and he's looking to the left, looking to the right, looking around, and then, and then he hops down off the fence and takes off up through the parking lot. Well, about as soon as he did that, I saw, one of those cop cars come back my way and then did another U-turn and head back the other direction. So I got out of the truck. I figured, well, they're looking for this guy, So I get out, and about that time, a female cop is coming down the street right back behind the parking lot where I'm parked. And I wave her down. I said, if she rolls her window down, I said, you looking for a Mexican? Ain't got no shirt on, got a tattoo on his left arm? She said, yeah. I said, he just jumped that fence right there and headed up through the parking lot right there and went that direction, pointed that direction. All right, so I just, didn't think much else about it. I got my truck, went on home. Well, the next day I come to the barbershop. It's probably about 10, 11 o'clock that next morning. A cop comes in, get a haircut. I'm talking to him. I said, hey, did y'all catch that Mexican you was looking for here in town yesterday? You had everybody. I mean, because there's the whole police force was out chasing this guy around downtown, And he said, oh yeah, we caught him. I said, he ain't a Mexican, no. He's one of them Lumbee Indians. So even though where I live kind of toward the mountains or whatever, but we're a pretty good ways away from where the Lumbees are in Lumberton, North Carolina. But we got a few that come up, migrate their way up here, where people don't know that much about them, and they get in a little trouble every now and then,
We actually have the neighborhood where the Lumbees settled in Baltimore is called Butcher's Hill. I don't think many of them are there now. They're still somewhere around Baltimore. Big Ron used to work with some of these guys, even dated one Lumbee Indian girl.
Dated is not the right word for what.
Okay. Well, he described
in the book.
He described her as having a face like a pit bull.
Right.
But he really liked her. She had some qualities that he found very enamoring. But the difference in appearance between some of these guys, Blue looked like this giant Puerto Rican with thick woolly hair, and this other guy who everybody just called him Apache because he actually looked like Apache. He looked like a picture of Geronimo. And then you got a bunch of them that just look like Caucasian guys, and a bunch of them look like Puerto Ricans. It's a real mix.
Yeah, it is. A lot of them they look kind of like Brazilians or whatever. A lot of the ones I remember, they had curly hair, big lips, and beards. And what it is somehow or another, Indians, blacks, and whites just kind of interbred in that area and just kind of just stayed there and kept breeding. And that's all it is. They're not like, they got some Indian in them, but that's kind of what they are. And they just kind of stuck in that area right there.
Yeah, it'll be a subject to my White Indians and Yellow Negroes project. It's probably.
But they've been trying for years to get recognized as a tribe. And our old senator, Bob Dole's wife, Elizabeth Dole, she was desperate for votes one year, and she was trying to get them recognized as a tribe. But the federal government put the big thumbs down on that and said, no, you're not getting a casino, you're not getting all the welfare benefits and get a reservation, get to lay around drunk all day long. So they're still, it's probably per capita, it's probably one of the poorest counties in the state of North Carolina. I mean, it's kind of a pitiful place. It's the armpit of the state, really.
My brother, when he was in the 82nd Airborne, he told me that they would date some of these girls, but then their brothers would come around looking for looking for the guys for different reasons. So it was the GIs were recommended not to mess with the 1B girls.
Yeah. Well, and that's close to Fayetteville, North Carolina, which is where Fort Bragg and all that is. So I'm sure there's a lot of soldiers get mixed up with some 1B girls, little squalls.
Well, thank God those guys don't have a casino, right?
That's right.
I can imagine what that would be like.
I think they got enough vices down there in Lumpy.
What's your elevation, or the part of the state that you're in?
I'm not all the way up the mountain. I'm kind of like in the foothills, right as the mountains start to go up.
You're out west in the state near where that state of Franklin was almost founded?
Not that far. That's on right at the edge of how North Carolina's shaped, kind of the toe of it or whatever. That's kind of more in that direction.
So that's right up against the border with Tennessee.
Yeah, and I'm not far from Tennessee. I'm just basically an hour away from Tennessee, but it's just going up the different direction. Like I don't go all the way to the end of the state to go to Tennessee.
Well, hopefully I'm going to get down there to visit you sometime within the next 2 years.
Well, I hope so, and something I plan on doing, depending on who the inductees are. I want to go to Canastota, New York, to the Boxing Hall of Fame when they're having the induction week, and I'm going to pick you up, me and you's going on a road trip up there and watch the ceremonies.
Sure. I'm down for that. That's fine. I wouldn't need much notice.
You don't have a lot going on.
Well, I'm totally self-employed. I'm just writing. So I spent the week on the road and actually wrote a lot. So I can pretty much take a week to go do something.
All right, our highest elevation here is 1,778 feet. But now my county's, the northern end of my county goes way up the mountain. I mean, right there at the edge. So I don't quite live that high up.
It's about like Western Maryland.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to ask you guys, what were some of the early fights that you saw that maybe kindled your interest in boxing? I know, James, you've written about Roberto Duran. And how about you, John Paul?
Yes. There was a Roberto Duran fight. I wasn't interested in boxing before that till I saw him knock this guy out cold. Probably 6 hours after my cousin Fred tried to drown me at Cape May. He kept throwing me in the surf for about 15 minutes until he finally got tired before I did. Yeah, I looked at that and I said, if I could hit like that guy, then Uncle Fred wouldn't take my Matchbox cars from me anymore, and Freddie wouldn't throw me in the ocean. So that was pretty much it. That's what got me started.
The first real fight I remember seeing that was just really got me into boxing was 1985, Marvin Hagler and Tommy Hearns. I don't know if anybody's ever seen that fight. It only lasted 3 rounds, but that first round is one of the most violent that you'll ever see. I mean, they just absolutely went at it. And I probably didn't watch it live. I mean, I was 7 or 8 years old at the time. It's probably one of them things that got replayed on Wide World of Sports, later on. I remember watching it with my granddaddy over at his house. After that, I've been a boxing fan ever since. That whole era of the 4 Kings, Hagler, Hearns, Duran, and Sugar Ray Leonard. I was a kid when all that was going on, and that was a great time to be a boxing fan, especially as a kid. Long-lasting memories that you have of that, and that was probably the biggest fight, the first one, that I remember seeing that really got me into the sport, and I've been a fan ever since.
That's in everybody's top 10 list. It's really in everybody's top 5 list.
Oh yeah, you never forget it.
Yeah, that was just completely savage. And Emmanuel Stewart blamed the loss on one of the hangers-on given the night before, given Hearns a leg massage after they played softball, which they also shouldn't have done. He was totally against that. Said he didn't have enough legs to stay away from Marvin, but I don't think he could take it away from Marvin Hagler. That guy was he was like a war machine.
He was
that's
on
the most
that
inspirational.
Night, Well, and he got cut, and he knew it was do or die. That cut was getting worse, and he just went to town, let him have it. I mean, that was a great. I don't know what would be worse as Marvin Hagler. I mean, for Marvin Hagler fighting Tommy Hearns, that long reach, or worrying about all that dripping from his jerry curl flying in your face, blinding your eyes, where you couldn't see what you're doing,
You know what? That would sting. That was the thing.
Yeah,
Vaseline's bad
that's
enough.
been outlawed from boxing. You hear people talk about, big boxers shouldn't be allowed to have beards. That softens the blow. Bullshit. Jerry curl's way worse than having a beard would be.
Yeah, and in amateur boxing, you're not allowed to have a beard just in case you get in a clinch or something, that you don't get a hair in the guy's eye. They're just really worried about the eyes because the guy could get killed if he's not seeing right. So I thought Marvin Hagler was simply my favorite fighter just because of his work ethic. And yeah, I had when I was the age you were when you saw that fight, I was a big Joe Frazier fan. That's the fight I got into after I saw that Duran fight because he was available to watch, and they wouldn't televise fights by foreign lightweights very often in the United States. I saw him on the undercard of a heavyweight fight. Yeah. So there's not even a lot of video footage of Duran.
No, not in those early days.
Because he was fighting mostly overseas. And
he ain't a lightweight no more. Have you seen him lately?
No, but he'd probably make me feel good about my weight.
Yeah. Another big rivalry that a lot of American fight fans don't know about was over in the UK. This was back in the 90s. Was Nigel Benn and Chris Eubank and Steve Collins. And to this day, I think the best two nicknames for two fighters facing off against each other was in the Nigel Benn, Steve Collins fight. Now, Nigel Benn's black guy, probably Jamaican descent or something, but, grew up in England or whatever. His nickname was the Dark Destroyer. And Steve Collins' nickname was the Celtic Warrior, the Dark Destroyer versus the Celtic Warrior. That's got to be two of the best nicknames, I think, for fights. But, you had Nigel Benn, Chris Eubank. They just fought a war with each other that first fight with Eubank winning by TKO. And then I think the ninth round maybe it was. And then the second fight they had a draw, never had a rubber match. Nigel Benn went on, if you remember, he ended up being the one who paralyzed Gerald McClellan.
Yeah.
And Nigel Benn was never the same after that. He ended up losing 2 times to Steve Collins later on. Steve Collins, the Irish guy, ended up losing to him 2 times after that. But, just like with Boom Boom Mancini, he never was the same after he did that to Gerald McClellan.
Nigel Benn was like a big version of Livingston Bramble, who was another West Indian boxer who was a lightweight.
Yeah.
He almost killed Doug DeWitt in one fight that I saw. It was really sickening. I remember I was watching it with my wife, and she was crying. At the time, I was actually getting in shape to get a fight. And I was toying with the idea of actually trying to get a professional fight. And, she was beside herself watching that. She said, because she kept looking at Doug DeWitt and seeing me there.
I'm sure. Yeah, that probably spooked anybody.
And there was a point where his glove just.
Yeah. One of the worst knockouts I remember seeing was when Ray Mercer knocked out Tommy Morrison. And the ref it just happened so fast. I don't know if he just couldn't get in there in time or just incompetent or whatever. I mean, Tommy was already out, and Ray just kept hitting him with those shots because the ropes were holding him up. And I mean, that's one of the most brutal knockouts I remember seeing.
He was a brutal guy if he got a hold of you. What I liked after that fight, he fought Larry Holmes.
Yeah.
And I thought it was Larry Holmes' best performance as an old man. And for a while, he was in the corner, and he was teasing Ray Mercer, saying, "I'm not Tommy Morrison. I'm not Tommy Morrison."
Yeah.
And he just really schooled him.
Ray Mercer went on to fight in an MMA fight against Tim Sylvia, who's a former UFC heavyweight champ. And it was after Sylvia was out of the UFC, but they fought MMA rules in a cage and everything. Ray Mercer knocked Tim Sylvia out, and Ray Mercer was in his 50s at the time. I mean, it was a pretty big upset considering it was MMA rules, and Ray Mercer being a boxer. That's how heavy his hands were.
Well, he was the right kind of boxer. When Holmes went into K1, he didn't do well because he's a stay away from you kind of boxer, and they just kicked his leg.
Oh yeah.
The same thing happened to a couple of lightweight champions that tried to do K1. And they just got their leg kicked out from underneath of them. But you kick against a guy like Ray that just steps in behind a power jab.
Yeah.
If you get caught with your 1 foot off the ground while he hits you, it's not a good thing. You've never watched a boxing match, Joanne?
Not really. John Paul, you told us a little bit about your prison experience, but do you have any fight stories you could share with us?
Well, let's see. I'll start out with the first physical altercation I remember. I was in the 3rd grade, and well, a little background on me. You know, I hear a lot of people on podcasts and stuff like that talking about how their parents taught them all this equality crap, and I was never taught that ever in my life. I was told before I started school, black guys are going to pick on you, and I better not hear of you letting them beat you up and you not fighting back. You're going to be in way worse. You might get in trouble in school if you fight back, but if you come home and I find out you did, you're going to be even worse trouble, you know. I never had any qualms about this stuff or whatever. So first physical altercation I remember being in was in the 3rd grade. I was in the library, and this black guy I knew, you know, I've known him about all my life. I was sitting in a chair reading a book. He walks over to me, kicks me in the shin. You know, I just think he's playing, whatever. And I said, man, what are you doing? Don't do that. It hurt. Well, he kicks me again in the shin and then grins at me like Sambo, you know. So I just instinctively, I just jumped right up from that chair and punched him right in the eye. Well, the teacher saw this happen. She got over there, broke it up, which he didn't act like he even wanted to fight back. He was kind of whimpering, you know, whatever. But, well, apparently I did not hit him hard enough. The very next year at my church, during the summer after 4th grade was over with, the church I went to, they thought it was a good idea to send the church buses out to the black sections of town and pick up the poor little black children, you know, and bring them in and teach them about Jesus and feed them cookies and give them some Tang and all that good shit. And so this was the last day of Vacation Bible School, and I'm sitting beside this black guy, the same one that I got in a fight with in 3rd grade or whatever. And we're sitting there. The preacher's up there in the pulpit preaching a sermon or whatever, you know. And this guy keeps frogging me in the thigh. I mean, Charlie horse, and y'all might call it that. We call it frogging down here, but it kept frogging me in the thigh. And I kept saying, quit, you know, quit. And he wouldn't do it. He wouldn't quit. You know, he just kept on doing it. Well, I finally got so mad, I reached up, and then I don't know if it's like, I guess it's like that in most churches, but they got little pencils in you know, there for you to fill out your offering or whatever with. I reached up there, grabbed that pencil, and jobbed it straight in his leg. And
Yes.
he went, oh, you know, like that. And then he got up and he took off running to go to the bathroom or whatever, you know. And, okay, like I say, this is the last day of Vacation Bible School. So we're supposed to go down to the fellowship hall afterwards and have a hot dog dinner and all this stuff. Well, this dude I stuck the pencil in, he had 3 or 4 brothers. So, you know, my granddaddy comes down to get me, you know, we're going to go down to the hot dog dinner. I said, Pops, I don't want hot dogs. Let's go on home, you know, because I figured they'd jump me or something down there, you know. So he's like, well, you sure? You know, I said, yeah, come on, let's go. So we left, and then we get in the car on the way home, and I'm telling him, you know, what really happened, why I didn't want to go to the hot dog dinner in the fellowship hall. He laughed. He thought that was the greatest thing. He said, he said, you know what? You ain't going home getting no peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Well, I'm taking you to McDonald's. I'm getting you a Big Mac, milkshake, French fries, whatever you want. You know, he thought that was great. So that was probably a good sign that I was on the road to ruin, that I shanked some dindu in Vacation Bible School with a miniature dog. Thanks for it. So let's see. I'll go on. I'm one of these. I don't like to brag about beating people up really much, you know. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to tell you a story of a fight that I won, and I'm going to tell you a story of a fight that I lost in prison. All right. This is not too long after I got locked up. I was in my hometown county jail here, which is really old, probably built turn of the 20th century or whatever. It's, like I say, it's really old. They've got some cameras up, but there wasn't like a direct supervision or anything in there of jailers or whatever. So, and it's always overcrowded. I mean, way more people than there are beds in there. I'd been in, you know, I was still in the floor at this time. I hadn't been in that particular cell long enough to get a bed. And it was, for some reason, they stuck a lot of the black guys in this one cell block that I was in, which is, it didn't really match to the demographics of my county. They just, I don't know, they kind of kept it segregated like that, but they stuck me in there. You know, there's maybe 3 or 4 white guys total in there, and, you know, probably 15 black dudes maybe or something like that. Well, they bring this goofy looking white dude in one night. He's probably about 6'4" or 5", thick glasses, skinny as a rail, he's in there for some domestic dispute bullshit. He made his wife mad, and she called the cops on him. And they still do it, if something domestic like that, they make you stay in jail 48 hours before you can bond out. So he's in there, and I mean, he ain't never been to jail before in his life. He's scared to death in there. And, kind of later on that night after the guy gets in there, this one black dude just decides to just beat the hell out of him, I guess, basically. And, he starts fighting him, and that guy, he don't even try to fight back, the white guy, and he's just kicking this guy's ass. Well, this other black guy who's maybe, I don't know, late 40s or something like that, he just jumps in and starts hitting the dude too. Well, that flew all over me, made me madder than hell. I jumped up. This dude didn't even see me coming. I reached over there and slammed his bald head into the bars, and then grabbed the back of his head and kneed him right between the nose and the mouth. I mean, hard as I could. He went down to the ground. Then I stomped him in the head, and that was it. I didn't, beat him up no more than that. It's bad enough. But because I was so outnumbered in there, I stayed up all night that night because I just knew I was going to get, stuck with a pencil or something in my sleep. I didn't fall asleep. Stayed up all night. And the next morning, I thought, man, I can't. I'm sleepy as hell. I got, I got one of the jailers to come up there, and I did what they call checking out. I was like, I can't be in here. Something's going to happen to me. You got to get me out of here, because I knew they was going to do something to me just for beating the hell out of that dude, like that. So got out of that situation. All right, I'll tell you one that I lost. All right, I was down in Charlotte, Mecklenburg County Jail, and I was using the phone. If somebody else is next, waiting, you don't do what they call double clicking. That means you don't make 2 calls in a row. Well, I didn't know this other guy was wanting to use the phone. He wasn't standing in line. He didn't tell me, give me no kind of sign. So I started calling somebody else. Well, this guy, he was some kind of half-breed from New York or whatever. And he's in pretty good shape. He always claimed he boxed or whatever, too, some up there. I don't know. I started calling somebody else. Well, he just flew mad all of a sudden at me and started cussing me out and yelling. So I got off the phone and got up, to confront him or whatever. We jawed each other or whatever, and I just, kind of tried to squash it. Me and him, we was pretty good friends. We got along all right. He just having a really bad day that day. I don't know. He probably found out Jody was screwing his girl or whatever, I don't know. As I was going up the steps back to where my cell was, I think the cops saw that the jailer or whatever, they saw we were arguing, so they made us go to our rooms or whatever. So I just go on, like I'm going to my room, and he's just so mad. He just chases after me, and I come down the steps because I see he's coming after me. And in the county jails, a lot of times you can buy these like Keds type loafer shoes, that they don't have laces or nothing. You just slide them on. And I had socks on too. Well, as soon as I start to run at him, because we're getting ready to fight, my slipper slips off. And so it's got, slick tile floors in there. And right as I'm coming at him, my shoe comes off. So I'm 1 foot, nothing but sock feet. And I slip. And right as I'm coming down, he hits me with a 2-piece, right in the eye. And then hits me in the eye with the left hand, hits me in the right hand, right in the mouth, And before I could even get up, the cops were in there macing us and everything, So that was it. We went to the hole, and then I'm having my hearing in the little kangaroo court they have for the hole, and it's a white guy who's the disciplinary officer or whatever, and he looks at me, he sees, I got a black eye, fat lip, some half-breed New York Yankee, kick my ass basically, and he's like, look, after he finds out what's going on, he said, look, I'm going to tell you something. I don't ever want to see you in here again. And if I do, I hope it's because you kick some black dude's ass. He said, don't you ever let these motherfuckers beat your ass again. It was basically and my grandparents, the same shit he told me growing up. Don't you ever let me find out these motherfuckers kicked your ass, And he's disciplinary here in the county jail down there. He's pissed off because he's seen some white dude get beat up by some African, And it's a pretty funny story there, But
he saw you as his criminal representative, his avatar in the prison population. Right?
I'm his team. He don't want me to lose. I'm part of his team.
That's really unusual level of racial solidarity. That's shocking to me, actually. That's great.
Yeah, well, dude, he was probably about 50 years old, old school. And I'm sure he just, after you work in the prison system and you're white, if you ain't a racist, you need a fucking lobotomy. They just way around it.
Oh, man. All right. Well, that reminded me of John Paul, another story you told me. And I remember that I wanted James to ask you about it because it was knife violence. And I think it was that you and, well, I guess to catch the listeners up, if you don't know, John Paul Barber was an entrepreneur.
Oh.
And you had certain ground rules for your business, right? You normally did not have a black clientele, right? And
No.
but one day you were at a party or something and you got robbed. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I was at a party, and I was, of course, selling drugs to people or whatever. Marijuana, cocaine. It's a long time ago, by the way. This was back in the 90s. This girl that I went to school with, she was a mud shark, coal burner, whatever you want to call it. She brings this black dude to the party. And, yeah, I mean, he saw what was going on. I'm sure he figured I was a dope man or whatever. Well, later on, we leave the party, and back in those days in small towns like this, most people kind of congregate and hang out in, McDonald's parking lot, Burger King parking lot, Walmart parking lot, whatever, something like that. Kind of, the cruising scene or whatever. Well, I was in a Burger King parking lot, sitting in the car, minding my own business, and that black dude that's at the party comes up, yanks my door open, puts a knife to my throat. Basically he's robbing me. He knew I had money or dope or something like that. At that time, I didn't even have any dope. I only had some money. I don't even remember how much it was. And of course, I give him the money. I don't want to get, stabbed. I don't know whether he would have done it or not. Give him the money. But I mean, I was just so mad about this. I mean, I just stewed on it for a day or two. And I mean, I was literally ready to roll up right into Browntown and shoot this motherfucking spook right in his mama's front yard, right in front of her. Didn't give a fuck, man. I mean, I was ready to kill this son of a bitch. And I was really scared I was going to do something crazy. So I took off for a while, took a road trip. Back at that time, I was still a skateboarder, So I rode out to California, went to San Francisco, rode skateboards in the Embarcadero Park, hung out there for a while, and eventually came back home, And by the way, before anybody gets any ideas, at that time, I don't think I even knew San Francisco was a faggot city or nothing. I mean, this is before the internet. This is how now I soon learned when I got out there how many faggots were out there. But if I'd have known that, I might would have chose a different destination. I basically just took a road trip, took off to California so I could, blow off some steam, ride skateboards, and just hang out. And then I came back after a while and I never did do anything to the guy. I've had some, let's just say I've had some last laughs with regard to the dude that robbed me there. I won't get into any details, plead the fifth kind of thing, But,
dating mud sharks is one way traditionally that black dudes have accessed targets for their violent crimes.
Oh, absolutely.
And it becomes such a habit. There was this one guy that I interviewed for a job position. The girl, who was a very nice-looking young lady, who was a mud shark, she worked for me, and she wanted me to give this guy a job because the last time she had him over her place, she said, look, order some pizza. I'm going to go up and get a shower. She comes down after she gets done taking the shower, and there's this Domino's pizza delivery guy sitting on her porch with a bloody nose. Her boyfriend ordered the pizza, took the pizza, punched the guy in the nose, and robbed him. And it just took off.
That's what you call high time preference right there.
Right. And she actually thought maybe working for me would whip this guy into shape for something, but he never made it to the first night at work. This isn't the guy that could stay up all night long putting up groceries on the shelf. He didn't really have the discipline necessary. So.
No. Yeah, delivering pizza is a pretty dangerous thing. I know. I assume it's still the same way here, but the black sections of town, they won't deliver pizzas.
John Paul, did you read all the pizza stories from Big Ron's book? Maybe I don't know if it was before you were following.
Yeah, it might have been before I was. I don't remember that. I've been meaning to buy that book, but I hadn't done it.
Yeah, Big Ron not only delivered pizza, he was the only guy that would deliver pizzas. I remember this this place. This is the place I ordered my pizzas from. They had two Nigerian guys. One of them looked like Duncan Dukawari. Okay, and he would make you come out to his car to pick it up. And then there was another Nigerian guy that was the same way. And there was this little Middle Eastern guy that used to get beat up and robbed all the time. And then there was Big Ron. He not only would deliver pizzas to the bad neighborhoods, when they sent him down to North Avenue, which is would be like sending you to South Central LA in the late 1980s. Okay.
Yeah.
He actually took a bunch of menus down there and started handing them out to the drug dealers and everything that were on the corners. And he was doing it to ingratiate himself with them and make sure they'd look out for him because he'd be the pizza guy bringing the food. And that way they wouldn't rob him. But then these guys started calling in orders to the pizzeria, and the owners got really upset because they were afraid they were going to lose all of their pizza delivery guys in this neighborhood. So he just had a way with those people. He was kind of like the Dr. Dolittle of Dindus. I mean, this
is definitely our most risky podcast we've ever done in terms of racism, homophobia, everything.
Surely there's been worse than this.
No.
Well, this isn't our most misogynistic podcast.
That's right.
Well, yeah, but that's, I can sort of shoulder that burden for the listeners, but I don't care. It doesn't bother me.
Well, hopefully we don't get you in any trouble here.
Nah, I'm not worried.
We're just concerned that our black brothers get the most possible opportunity to commit crimes without getting killed. So you want to have somebody like Big Ron on hand, or John Paul Barber that's just going to slap them or stick a pencil in their leg. Not shoot them or anything.
Hey, I'm a good boy now. I don't do nothing. To tell you the truth, I've only been in since I got out of prison. I've only been in one fight, and to tell you the truth, and I don't even really consider it a fight. It's actually the only time I've ever been in a fight with a white person. We had a bad problem of people panhandling out in front of our barbershop. They'd be hitting our customers up for money as they were coming in or going out of the shop. I mean, this is terrible for business, especially when you got young mothers bringing their little boys or whatever in the barbers. They're scared to death of shit like that, So there's these several guys that just kept doing this, and I warned them 3 or 4 times. I'd go out there and cuss them out, tell them, don't do that shit no more. And they just wouldn't listen. Well, about the 4th time, I saw them out there doing it again, and I went out there and I started cussing them just, like I normally do. And that one, he felt good enough to cuss me back that day. Well, that just flew all over me. So I put one on his jaw and laid him out right there on the town square. I don't know if it was where I hit him or where he hit the concrete, but he was bleeding. They had the ambulance come up there and stuff, and he ended up taking a warrant out on me and stuff. But luckily, my court date was on my day off, so I didn't lose no money. And he kind of hung around there that morning long enough for him to call the docket, and he said he was there or whatever. But then he left, and by the time they got around to my case, he was gone, so they dismissed it. Nothing ever happened. I mean, and plus I ain't really all that concerned about my criminal record at this point, especially some chicken shit like an assault charge,
Oh, well, that's great. So,
that's the only physical altercation I've been in since I've been out of prison, and I try to be a pretty good boy most of the time.
I had almost 3,000 situations like that I put on my log when I was a grocery store manager, and only one of them got physical because I'm mainly in charge of preventing liability against the business. But that's really terrible when you got these panhandlers out there. We had this one guy, blonde boy, that would actually, when an old lady would try to get out of her car, he'd lean on her car door and just keep asking her for money. And he's basically not letting them get out of their car until they put some money through the slot in the window.
Yeah.
So there was this real cute Polish girl. I knew her brother was a loser. He was a criminal. And she paged me up to the courtesy booth one evening, and she demanded that I do something about this very same guy because he was out there hassling old ladies, and she didn't want to have to see that, and she didn't want to get hassled like that when she left there. So I went out there with her, and I go to talk to this guy, and he just looks at me. He's in the process of harassing this old lady, and he just looks at me, and he holds his hands to frame his face, and he gets real red in the face. He looked like Tyson Griffin, the MMA fighter. He was like a smallish MMA fighter.
Had a big old bud on him.
Yes, that's what this guy looked like. And that big old butt worked too, because I chased this guy up the street one time because one of my girlfriends gave him $5 that I'd given her. And as soon as I found out he had it, I started chasing him up the street, and he started calling the police on me. But he looks at me and he just starts saying, you're such an asshole. You just lived to ruin my life. Why don't you die? Why don't you go away? And he told me, he said, I'm known for knocking people out. And I said, well, I'm known for taking a beating. I said, so why don't you wait around here till 9:30 at night and beat me up at the bus stop? But leave these old ladies alone. And then I feel this girl behind me. She was a real sweet thing, okay? And at late 20s, I thought she was perfect for me until this happened. And then I feel her arms go around my waist, and she's behind me, and she's on her tiptoes, her little chin's on my shoulder, and she's screaming at this guy, fuck you, you asshole, die in a gutter, starve to death, leave. And then she's holding me with one arm. Her nipples are rock hard. She's excited, and she's pressing her breast into my back. And then I see her right hand comes out under my right arm, and it's holding mace. And she's about to let this mace container off right in front of my face.
Yeah.
But he terrified this guy so much she ran away, and she didn't do it. And then she asked me if I'd like to go out to dinner sometime. And I looked at her, and I looked at her figure and everything, and I saw my wife flash before my eyes, and at some point I wake up with a butcher knife between my breasts. So I was like, you know what? Give me your phone number, and I'll give you a call sometime when I didn't.
That's a good safe line there.
At some point, she was going to have me beat up her brother. I know that's where this was going.
Yeah.
That was probably my most fun dealing with a panhandler. But she didn't need my help. She was a savage. He wasn't afraid of me. He was afraid of her.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Most of the time, I'm able to just verbally confront these people that are doing stuff like that's not good for business, and they'll go away because they're just not used to having somebody stand up to them. I mean, you just call them down. Most of the time, they'll just cower and go away. I mean, right. Like I say, that's the only time that it came to any kind. And like I say, it wasn't really much of a physical conversation. I mean, a confrontation. It just one point. That was it.
I've never been a barber, but I've been to barbershops. So I'm wondering, what's it like to be a barber? What's your day like?
Well, to be honest with you, I love it. It's one of the greatest professions you can ever get into. I mean, anybody out there listening, you ain't going to get rich at it, but you don't have to go to school for very long for it. It's, you make a decent living. But the main thing, you get to know everybody in your community. You learn all the best people to do whatever kind of job you need to do, where to buy houses, cars, whatever, and people will always do good work for you and cut you good deals because, number one, you're usually paying in cash. And number two, if they do you wrong, you will tell everybody in town about them and ruin their reputation. And I mean, I probably does depend on where you live. Like where I live, my political opinions are really not that out of the mainstream. I mean, I say 75% of the county I live in voted for Trump. Probably 95% of our customer base are Trump supporters or whatever. I mean, very conservative area. And besides, most liberals get their hair cut at a beauty shop. I mean, come on. And it's just, I'm dealing with, for the most part, real men every day. And I love getting the young guys come in there. And, a lot of times they don't have a father figure at home, or if they do, he might be a pussy or something like that. And, you get them in there when they're, 11, 12 years old, and you start talking to them like men. And I like being a good influence on them and, teaching them certain things and letting them, where they feel free, they can talk about whatever they want, women, whatever, having fun, but it's basically, I get paid to hang out with people in my community that I like and enjoy being around. And we, tell racist, homophobic, sexist jokes all day long. And it's great. I love it. I mean, I wouldn't ever want to do anything else. I don't think. I mean, from the liberal perspective here, you're describing like this
this little shop of horrors, like this hate
Toxic
matrix.
masculinity.
If there was hidden cameras wired into YouTube in our shop, we'd have Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, ADL, LGBT, all that shit would be outside picketing our place. I mean, we would be public enemy number one. I mean, but it's just regular, real men letting loose with whatever's on their mind every day. I mean, it's a great job. I love it. We have a ball every day. I work with two great guys, and they're the same mindset as me on pretty much everything. You know, we just have a good time. It's a great job. I love it.
Hey, maybe they could run an ad on the Crackpot Podcast. We've never had an advertiser.
Yeah. Serving the hair care needs of real men since the beginning of time. Because I do believe that the barbering is probably the second oldest profession after prostitution. You know, I mean, back in the old days, we were when they did bloodletting and all that, we were the doctors, the dentists, everything. I mean, we did it all.
He would be in charge of plucking the nose and ear hairs of the rich. That was I read about that in some of the ancient Roman literature I read. I think it was Quintilian was talking about not being offended by the squeals of the rich as they have the hairs from their private parts plucked by the barbers down in the market when you're walking by. It's like one of your stoic exercises.
Yeah, I wouldn't consider that the good old days there. I draw the line. Now, I do know that during the Middle Ages, the Catholic Church had the boys' choir, you know, and they had those high-pitched voices. Well, what would happen was they'd hit puberty, and they would lose the ability to hit those high notes. So the Pope ordered these boys to be castrated. They were called the castrati, and that was who did the castrating back then was the barbers. So I'd probably have to draw the line at that too.
Yeah. Well, you'd have been facing excommunication, I'm sure.
That's right. Yeah, I'm sure I would. Hey, that's something I never met. I've heard the Catholics and that's something that's kind of odd around here. You don't. I mean, there was like a few growing up that were Yankees that moved down here or something. You know, I knew like maybe two. I don't know if I probably wouldn't fit in too good with them anyway. I never met a Jew or an Italian, but until I went to prison.
Sorry, that's cracked me up. I'm an Italian Jew in a way.
Yeah, you'd be like a white buffalo around here.
I'm only 1/8 Jewish, okay? Listeners, please don't
count.
Show on me.
I once worked with two black guys where one of them said something about "don't Jew me." He was talking to a third black guy, and the other black guy was a little bit slow, and he wanted to know what it meant, and he didn't know what a Jew was. And he's like, "Oh, you one of them East Side niggas? On the West Side, we got Jews." He said, they're these skinny little white people, and they got money shoved everywhere. Like you grab these people and shake them upside down, and money would keep falling out. So that was like his idea: is a skinny little white person with a lot of money.
Sounds like leprechauns.
Right. Yeah, because all the Jewish people in Baltimore are basically in. My great grandfather married a Jewish lady for his fourth wife, and he moved out to where she lived in a place called Pikesville. So the northwest of Baltimore County and Baltimore City is the traditional Jewish area, and it's a very pretty tight enclave. When you look at it, it's like the only good-looking area in Baltimore from the satellite maps, where there hasn't been housing projects like dropped in and inconvenient places.
Oh yeah, I've got a buddy of mine lives up there. I think he said it's Ellicott or Endicott City or something. Where he said it's really nice. What he said.
Yes, yeah, Ellicott City is very nice. It is a very old Baltimore town. It was an old mill town because the Patapsco River that goes through it, it's right on the edge of the Patapsco State Forest. And the river's real stony and fast right there. So they could put a mill there from an early time. Ellicott City is probably about as old as Baltimore, and it's just like two city blocks between a stony river bank and a hill that's got a cliffside to it. because you couldn't call it a mountain. It's not high enough to be a mountain.
Well, I can tell you one thing they don't have is a good barber, because this buddy of mine, he still comes down every month to get a haircut. So.
Wow.
Most of the good barbers in Baltimore are working in environments where they have to lock the front door or they have to pack a gun. It's like being a barber in a Clint Eastwood movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so
I actually have had a recurring nightmare that I'm going to get in trouble somehow and I'll have to go back to prison, and the judge puts it in as my sentence of life in prison without parole and hard labor of cutting Negro hair for the rest of your life every day. And, usually I'll wake up in a cold sweat or whatever. But I'm beginning, it's not that bad where I live here now, but I'm wondering if this is becoming true in a different way in real life, and that all I'm going to be doing is cutting Mexicans' hair.
Well, they're much less likely to commit violence against you than the other groups, though.
Probably so, but their hair is like broom straw, and it sticks in you like splinters. And every time I cut one's hair, I pull the pocket knife out, digging it out, because it just sticks in you. It's just so coarse.
I want to go back because you have a recurring nightmare about prison, and I know for you, prison was like a time of your life when you got things figured out and you read a lot of books and things like this. So I have recurring dreams about college still, and I think that's appropriate, that I also have nightmares, and a lot of people do who went to college. So it's like prison or college, it's about the same. It just depends on what you get out of it.
College is prison for people with ambition.
That's right. Well, I'll be honest with you. That really was my college. I got a better education in there, I think, about stuff that's important, like learning about human nature and how people are, being able to spot con artists. And these are things that are very useful in life. And I hate that I had to go. But I'm telling you what, it's one hell of a learning experience. If you can make it out of there alive, I recommend it for anybody. Yeah.
The book 48 Rules of Power has been banned from most prisons.
Oh, yeah?
A friend of mine just told me about it because he's looking for it. He wants to get a hold of a copy. So see if I can find one online. But, yeah, he said that what he heard was it was banned in prisons.
Most of the books I saw in there the black guys were reading were that Donald Goins crap. Are you familiar with that, James?
No.
Oh, my God, it's awful. It's just, basically every blaxploitation movie put into the written word, and it's just pathetic. They read that crap. Donald Goins is like the Louis L'Amour of blacks.
Oh, so it's like Ice Cube Slim.
Yeah, little books that are just thousands of them probably that he wrote. I don't know how many he wrote, but yeah, they read a lot of those books in there.
Okay, well that's fascinating.
And the TV in there are never on nothing but BET rap videos, NBA basketball, and you would be amazed at they watch Young and the Restless, Bold and the Beautiful, all that soap opera crap every day in there.
That doesn't surprise me at all, because they're all raised by women.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so that is fascinating.
Yeah, I got something I'd like to talk to you about, James.
Yes, sir.
About boxers being the only professional athletes who can still get away with saying politically incorrect things and not really having much ramifications for doing so. Because all your rest of your professional athletes are in some type of league where they'll shut them down or kick them out or whatever if they're not towing the politically correct line or whatever. And, with boxers, that's the only thing they really had to worry about is some sponsorship money or whatever, because they're their own fighter. They're like a self-contracted employee, and promoters will promote their fights for an individual fight or whatever, A lot of times, if I've noticed that boxers say some of the most controversial things and still go on to, have great careers and have big fights, and nothing really ever happens to them much. And I want to read a few quotes from some boxers. I'm going to start out with Floyd Mayweather. This is when he was on Jimmy Kimmel, and he's talking about Jimmy Kimmel's asking about a strip club he opened. Floyd Mayweather says, I got into the business because I know that the breast, vagina, music, and alcohol will never go out of style. Okay. And then here he is talking about Donald Trump and about the grabbing by the pussy comment, you know. Floyd says, he speaks like real men spoke, Mayweather said. Real men speak like, man, she had a fat ass. You see her ass? I had to squeeze her ass. I had to grab that fat ass. Mayweather, who served prison time in 2011 for domestic abuse and faced other allegations continued. So he's talking locker room talk. Locker room talk. I'm the man. You know what I'm saying? You know who I am? Yeah, I grabbed her by the pussy. And Mayweather said he attended Trump's inauguration and appreciated Trump's support at his 2015 bout with Manny Pacquiao. If y'all didn't want to man the White House, y'all should have voted the other way, Mayweather said. He did what he had to do, and he got there. Okay, you know, any other athlete will be completely blackballed for saying that. Floyd Mayweather has fuck you money and can say whatever the hell he wants. All right, here's another thing Floyd talking about Black Lives Matter. He says, I'm here to say all lives matter, Mayweather said. You know, a lot of times we get stuck and we're followers. When you hear one person say Black Lives Matter or Blue Lives Matter, all lives matter. That's a very politically incorrect statement there. And he goes on, he says, a lot of times everybody be talking about, yeah, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. But I see more white people wearing my TMT shit. That's the money team. That's his promotion company, talking about wearing his clothes and stuff. He said, yo, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. You giving Gucci the money, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter. You giving Givenchy the money, you giving Louis Vuitton the money, we giving Christian the money. Listen, I wear the shit too, but at the end of the day, I'm still going to wear my own shit also. When I started TMT, it's not a black thing, it's not a white thing, it's the right thing. So my TMT gear is worldwide. My TMT gear is for everybody. I didn't make it for blacks or whites, I made it for everybody. So, you know, he's saying white people buy more of his clothing, so they're all right with him, basically. So, I got a lot of scrutiny. Everybody was like, yeah, Floyd said all lives matter. I don't give a fuck what nobody say. I live my life the way I fucking want to live my life. I say what the fuck I want to say. I ain't no fucking follower, and I'll say it again. All lives matter. So he keeps on going, you know. And then he says, a lot of times we say Black Lives Matter, but at the end of the day, in the hood, blacks is shooting blacks. I'm saying nobody should be killing nobody. I just want peace. Floyd is pretty red-pilled, I'd say. On a lot of and here he goes. This isn't really all that controversial, but it's still pretty funny. Mixed martial arts is for beer drinkers. Boxing is for everybody. You can't take my shoes off, take my shirt off, and just throw me in a cage. You do that with animals. You can't do that.
That's great.
Yeah, okay, and here he is talking about Manny Pacquiao, who's from the Philippines, if anybody don't know. Once I stomp that midget, I'm going to make that motherfucker make me a sushi roll and cook it right. What this motherfucker is going to do is make me a sushi roll. He better make me a shrimp tempura cut roll. I'm going to take that motherfucker to the teppanyaki room and chop his ass up with some rice. So everybody knows all this shit about sushi, but don't even know that sushi don't come from the Philippines. Let's see. And here he is talking about Oscar De La Hoya and Victor Ortiz. Motherfucker got a man rubbing on him, a man massaging him. He said he wants a strong black man massaging him. Give me the strongest black man you got to massage me. That's what he says. De La Hoya a hoe, flat up, he gay and he a hoe. Victor Ortiz a hoe too. He let a man massage him, and Oscar wears fishnets. And then he going to talk about Victor talking about Oscar. He look at him like a god. Are you fucking serious?
Oh man.
Worst, okay, for anybody don't know the background between Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Floyd Mayweather Sr., his daddy, they have bad blood. Senior, he was a former boxer, got on drugs, probably wasn't around his son a whole lot. Most of Floyd's career, his trainer has been his uncle, Roger. Okay, this was on HBO 24/7. I'm sure you might remember this, James. And him and his daddy get into an argument, and it's the cameras are rolling and everything. And here's what he says to his daddy now. You couldn't fight worth shit. You weren't never nothing but a motherfucking cab driver. You weren't shit as a fighter. So how you gonna be somebody's trainer? You wasn't shit as a motherfucking fighter. Get out of my gym, faggot. So, I mean, Floyd he gets away with all this stuff. I mean, it's hilarious because, you know, he's his own promoter. He doesn't care about sponsorship money. He can do whatever he wants. Manny Pacquiao, he got in some trouble here. I think it was last year before maybe. You know, because he's a politician over in the Philippines. And they asked him about gay marriage. And here's his quote. It's common sense. Do you see animals mating with the same sex? Animals are better because they can distinguish male from female. If men mate with men and women mate with women, they're worse than animals. He says, I'd rather, after he got in trouble, he did kind of, you know, apologize and stuff. He said, I'd rather obey the Lord's command than obeying the desire of the flesh. I'm not condemning anyone, but I'm just telling the truth of what the Bible says. Later, though, he added an apology saying, I'm sorry for hurting people by comparing homosexuals to animals. Please forgive me for those I've hurt. I still stand on my belief that I'm against same-sex marriage because of what the Bible says, but I'm not condemning LGBT. I love you all the love of the Lord. God bless you all, and I'm praying for you. In the South, when somebody says, I'll pray for you or bless your heart, that means, you know what that means. But he lost his Nike sponsorship over that. And even though he cucked and apologized, he has redeemed himself since then by coming out in full support of President Rodrigo Duterte in Philippines.
Yes. I wish Duterte was our president.
Oh, he's awesome. And he said, referring to Duterte as the anointed one in an interview, Pacquiao vowed his full support for the president, who assumed the nation's top office in June after making the eradication of drug crime by any means necessary, blah, 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 you know, all that stuff. He said his attitude, Duterte's attitude is necessary for a nation that has forgotten the fundamentals of respect. God put him there for a reason, for purpose, to discipline the people. And Pacquiao also wants Duterte to remain president for life of the Philippines, and he's invited Duterte to be ringside for his upcoming fight against Lucas Matisse on July the 15th in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. So we might get to see him ringside at a fight.
Oh, that's great news, man. Thank you.
We got one more, James, and I know you love this guy because I've heard you talk about him. It's our boy across the pond, Tyson Fury.
Oh, okay.
All right. Now, this is from an interview Tyson Fury did. When asked why he has never been backed by 75% of the British public, he says, I just think it's because I'm a believer in the Lord. People hate that, so they don't want to hear it, so they all come together and talk. But it doesn't matter because those that stand fast shall be rewarded. He says his views are seen as draconian. Living in ancient times where we don't like women to be whores, opening their legs to every Tom, Dick, and Harry. We don't shag men. We don't shag kids. If that's draconian, then I suppose I like being draconian. They should call me Tyson Dracula Fury because I'm still living in those times. I think it's perfectly normal in the next 10 years to have sexual relations with animals at your home, your pets, your cats, and dogs, and that will all be legal. You are already allowed to marry your animals and stuff. It's going to happen, though, isn't it? Whatever you can think of it's bad will be made legal because that's what the devil wants. So if you want to shag your animals, it will be made legal. In a world that's changing its morals daily and lowering the bar of daily morals, then it's okay to do all sort of stuff. I can't think of anything that's bad it wouldn't be allowed to happen. He rages about plastic dolls that look like children so perverts can shag them. And he adds, the world has gone mad. There's no morals. There is no loyalty. There is no nothing. Everyone just do what you can. Listen to the government. Follow everybody like sheep. Be brainwashed by all the Zionist Jewish people who own all the banks, all the newspapers, all the TV stations. Be brainwashed by all of them. Maybe they might start making it legal so that 4 or 5 men can grab a granny and rape her in public in front of kids and all that, or grab an old man and rape him. Fury says, listen to what this filth is going on. You got men shagging men, then going home, shagging a girlfriend. The girlfriend leaves him, then goes to somebody else. Somebody else shags her because she's obviously going to have 100 partners, isn't she? Minimum, that's the right thing to do. So all she's doing is spreading these diseases day in and day out for everybody. Women are even taking overnight bags out with them, so they're going to just go out and get laid just like men used to do. Women are worse than that. They're taking overnight bags because they know they're going to pull somebody and get at it that night. Filth, pure filth. I think we should make a group, a loyalist group to the normal thing in life, just to be normal. It's like you're a freak of nature if you're normal. You're the odd one out. Nobody else is. What is normal? I'll just get myself changed into a woman. That's normal, isn't it, today? And call myself Tyson or something like that. 6'9", put a wig on. You know what I mean? Because I want to feel like what it feels like to be shagged. What is the need of all the fashion? I don't think it's normal. I think they're freaks of nature. And he goes on, he's saying it's bossless men that won't stand up. Everything's dirty, corrupt, filthy. You know, he keeps on going. In the schools, now they're asking little kids at 5 and 6, they want to be a boy or a girl. They get when they get older. What the fuck is that? I think it's terrible to open an innocent child's eyes to dirt and filth at young ages. All this sex education, all that as kids. Kids need to be kept innocent for as long as possible because there's that much dirt and filth in the world and rubbish. He says all this stuff, and the fight against him and Vladimir Klitschko for the heavyweight title of the world is scheduled. He goes on, beats Vladimir Klitschko, and becomes the heavyweight champ of the world. So it's pretty obvious God is on this guy's side, I think. And
yeah,
just amazing that, you know, no other sport in the world could somebody say that. They would be completely blackballed, never allowed to fight, nothing, if that were to happen.
That's true. That's absolutely true. Even in the ancient world, they were considered taboo people. You know, they had to go through a purification ritual after a bloody fight, for instance, before they could go back, and they would be given meals for life by their hometown. And a couple of them ended up being worshipped as like healing gods, but there was always this sense that they were outside the norm. John Keegan said that, for instance, that the prize fighter, because of the type of empathy he has for other people, that he's got in the normal man holds him in some kind of weird zoological fascination. And I've just seen a lot of that. If people find out you box, they want to talk to you about it, and they treat you like you're somebody apart. And usually because they think you're insane, because they just, you know, people can't imagine just getting punched in the face as a regular thing.
As a hobby.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think it's fantastic that these guys are speaking out, and I think there's no accident that they feel like they can speak out. Hell, Mike Tyson could talk about eating Lennox Lewis's children, and
absolutely,
you know, and then get away with it. And I think where a lot of that is gone is, I think in a lot of ways that professional wrestling actually is kind of a caricature of the fact that, you know, the prize fighter is like this outside guy that can, you know, do and say outrageous things, because they still allow a lot of politically incorrect things in that. The last time,
definitely.
Last time I was at the bar and I saw what was going on the Monday Night Wrestling, I was like, you couldn't have this in any other kind of media.
No. That's a common saying I hear around here is professional wrestling is the only real sport left.
And I see it as a bit of a court jester aspect to it too, because they're intentionally ridiculous and over the top, and you know, so they can probably get away with saying things because of that.
That's a good point. That's the only guy that could get away with saying stuff in a medieval court, was the jester.
Yeah,
that was his purpose. He was the vet, and they didn't have something like boxing in medieval Europe, as far as I know.
And it still goes on in the UFC some. I mean, you get Conor McGregor, you know, he talks a lot of trash or whatever, but at some point, with him being in an organization as an employee of that league, you know, he's got more ramifications for that kind of behavior than a professional boxer does. You know what I mean?
Right. Plus, there's only a couple of boxers at any given time that ever have any endorsements on the line.
Yeah,
the MMA guys get a lot more endorsements.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, whether, you know, their shoes or their gloves, that's basically it. And Pacquiao losing his Nike sponsorship, I mean, that's probably dropping a bucket to what he's making on an individual fight.
Yeah, a boxer doesn't get a sponsorship unless he's already filthy rich.
Exactly.
Yes. So maybe it's partially they've been able to stay human in their opinions because they haven't gotten vacuumed up into the whole commercial thing. You know, they're still basically making money off their deeds. You know, they basically get paid for the last fight whenever they go out.
Oh, yeah. And somebody like Floyd, you know, you can tell he's insulated from a lot of what's going on in the real world. He doesn't, I'm sure he's not even aware of a lot of these politically correct things or whatever, because he's got his entourage or what. I mean, he didn't have a clue about all this stuff. He's just saying first thing comes to his mind, and he doesn't care.
Yeah, he's judging the tryouts for the new crop of strippers at one of his Atlanta area strip joints, right? I mean, the man's got a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, that's right. I would like to know. I mean, I'm a firm believer that he will be broke. I mean, as much money, he's probably made more money than any boxer ever in history, but just the way he does, I mean, he's going to be broke. I mean, at some point, within the next however long, I don't know. There's not a whole lot of boxers that have held on to their money. I mean, Larry Holmes has done pretty good. George Foreman, of course, but a lot of that's his, selling the grill or whatever. I mean, but, there's a lot of boxers that went broke.
Yeah, there's only a few of them. And back in the old days, the only thing that they knew how to do was open a bar or open a gym.
Yeah.
And those are real dicey propositions.
Oh, absolutely.
Hopefully Floyd will own the last strip club in post-apocalyptic America, and it'll be like...
He'll be the only one politically incorrect enough to not have trannies on stage stripping.
Right. This could be it. This could be it. It could be the last strip club on earth, owned by Floyd Mayweather. Maybe that'll be his only income, and he'll get exiled to some small country somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I think that's a great show. I'm going to wrap it up there, but I bet we could do this again. And I know there's a lot of interest in boxing among the readership and listenership. So thanks a lot, John Paul Barber, for joining and sharing your stories and knowledge of boxing. I appreciate it.
Thank y'all for having me. It's been a pleasure. I had a great time. Thank y'all for doing the podcast. Y'all have a good evening.
Hey, thanks for coming on. I enjoyed this a lot.
Anytime. I loved it.
Okay, and I'm supposed to also direct readers and listeners to buy James's books. Go to Amazon.com and buy some books. Actually, James has written the book on boxing, several of them, some important books on the history of boxing, as well as contemporary coaching type books. So I will link those.
Well,